The Academy is about winning, and it's about getting to the LCS. If you look really good in Academy, it's very tough for teams to not look at that and take notice. Now that we're here at the final, it's Cloud9 that always seem to win.
Nicely done!
It's TSM that have had probably their best season ever. Everything is going right for TSM.
The reigning champs again going to the finals, and they'll be facing off against TSM.
Mid lane is where this series could be decided. Palafox has been called PalaFaker after his semi-final performance.
Quadra kill from Palafox. Show me that KDA, baby.
Evolved is a player that everyone has had their sights on for so long, and to see a former one-trick convert into a fully-fledged pro player with less than a year of play under his belt, and he still hasn't hit the ceiling that everyone expects him to hit, is kind of a thing of beauty.
Ball goes over the top, flash, ult finds two.
Cloud9 are absolutely the favorites, but it shouldn't be by much.
They're both on a rampage.
There are never any guarantees that you'll make it to the LCS, but winning Academy Finals is your best step forward.
Hello and welcome to Academy Blast Off, where for 15 minutes we give you the need-to-know info heading into our Academy World Finals. Now, it may be the smaller of the two World Finals that will take place this year, but it is the first. So that's got to mean something, right, guys?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
I am joined by Alorum Pastry and Raz to watch these two teams duke it out. Pastry, I want to come to you first because you set the table for what Academy is and how it is a system to feed players into the LCS, and I think we're seeing that more than ever here in 2020.
Absolutely, and I know it's only Blast Off, not Countdown, but the SpaceX launch was pretty cool this year. I reckon we can rival that as far as launch pads go, so I'm excited to dig into some of the details that have happened around the Academy.
All right, okay.
Okay, Pastry setting a high bar for us. We got to surpass SpaceX now. All right, let's remember how we got here, shall we? CLG and Evil Geniuses Academy, they took down 100 Thieves and Golden Guardians Academy in the quarterfinals to move on to face our number 1 and 2 seeds in the semis. But Cloud9, TSM Academy, they swept both of those contenders with their eyes fixed on one another and the title of Academy World Champion in today's best of 5. Dispatched them quickly, 2 quick 3-0s out of both of those squads. But speaking of 5s, for playoffs, we'll be comparing teams' speed throughout this split against each other in the Samsung SSD Fast 5. Of course, taking a look at some of those most important team categories. First Drake, Herald, Baron, Inhib, and of course, when are you picking up that soul?
Yeah, my eyes are on Cloud9. Seems like their team get her done. Like across the board, they seem to be faster until we get to first Baron. But the dub's still there for the team.
Yeah, so we'll have to track and see if this plays into today. We know that best of 5s are a totally different animal. You spend the whole split building up these stats against 9 different teams. Today, you're playing against 1 and 1 only, so of course the matchups will be incredibly important. But as we've reached our final day of the Academy split, I want to ask you a question with 2021 in mind. If the 3 of you were a GM and you had to infuse your LCS roster with some young talent, which of the Academy players that played this year would you be looking at to pick up in the offseason? Pastry, let's start with you.
I'll take the low-hanging fruit and just look at the Cloud9 Academy solo lane, as they've been so good all year long, and I think this summer has been even better for them. Palafox and Fudge have just looked better and better since King left the team, and there was kind of a power vacuum it felt like in Cloud9. Fudge has really stepped up to be a primary carry for the team, and Palafox has just had an absolutely unbelievably good run in playoffs, especially being called PalaFaker in the semifinals. And both these players just showing that they certainly have the talent to play in the LCS, and Fudge is someone that whose career has only gotten better each year he's played. He turned 18 this year, by the way, so he's kind of advanced every step of his career, and he's a player that, to me, feels like he's already ready to play in the LCS.
Well, speaking of young talent in the top lane, what I am looking at is Fake God from 100 Thieves. That guy has already had a brief stint in the LCS after 100 Thieves took out Soligo, put in Ryu, and he had some enormous shoes to fill from Someday. And he did all right, and he went back to Academy, but I think with that experience of the LCS split he played, he has proven that he's been really dominant. Like in the past 2 splits, I see a lot of Fake God and Fudge as the same player, that they can play pretty well no matter what the situation is. Even if 100 Thieves is in a losing situation, we see Fake God have very consistent performances. So if I'm looking at top lanes, I'm looking at Fake God. And if I'm going across the map, I'm going straight to Lost from
Ooh.
TSM Academy.
Okay.
He is the original Oceanic AD carry to come to NA before the
fact.
FBI.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And ever since I was on a team with him on Echo Fox, he has just been such a star player. He is an incredibly mechanically gifted AD carry. He's smart about the game. He's patient, and he can play both strong side and weak side. Lost is just such a huge improvement to any team, and as you can see on TSM, he's pretty much their primary carry, and he does so well every game, especially paired with treats.
Ose and pumping out 80 carry talent. What's going on in that region?
It's looking good.
We're taking them all. They're all coming in.
I clearly
hey,
set
I'm
the
not
bar
gonna
for strong
fight it.
LCS imports from Oceania.
It's a
so it makes
yoink.
sense to me.
We keep taking them, by the way. I'm just saying, OPL finals happened yesterday. I saw
Yeah.
specific Rays 80 carry talents. They still pumping them out.
Check his organization, by the way. Golden Guardians not only has FBI, but they have 2 different Oceanic players on staff as well. So they're like collecting them all over there.
Big
There it
Rays
is.
over here.
There it is. Pastry, let's look at the mid lane. What about Blaze?
So kind of like on the same tone as Lost, who's a player that has actually been here for quite a while and has shown a lot of talent. Blaze Olive is now at the point where he is actually a veteran of Academy. He was drafted in the Honda Scouting Grounds as the first overall pick. He went to TSM, which is a story that is very similar to another mid laner that's also playing in this final. But he's, had a couple splits under his belt. He won a championship, and now he's off to Golden Guardians, where he's continued to perform even better. And I think that talent was always there, but kind of the brains and the communication and the complete package of a player has made a Blaze Olive, I think, an even more valuable asset. This is a player that is now at the point where he is ready to play in the LCS. I kind of think of players in 3 tiers, where it's like, not ready, you have the talent to hang, but you don't have other skills developed yet, and you're LCS ready. And for me, like a lot of these players, a Blaze Olive is LCS ready.
Yeah, and being able to get the experience of working with him hands-on, I completely agree. Remember like being seen as the mage player, the Azirs and all that, and then being able to see him actually adapt and play a different style as well, being able to play assassins on a separate coin, the leadership that he brings in game as well. He's like, really, he does really well in being able to take feedback, give feedback, and I think like the consistency in games that you already mentioned has been a strong suit. Mm-hmm. And I know you said veteran is a key term because coming out of Bjergsen's shadow from TSM and challenging for an LCS spot finally, I want to take a bigger step back and talk about the biggest veteran you could talk about in Zion Spartan, the same team. Because I feel like, how many years he's been in the scene so far? I'd say 7, something like that.
All of them, pretty much. Yeah. So you want him back in the LCS?
He, for me, is a really inspirational story, and telling a story of like that you're always a student of the game, that you're always growing, always developing. Like the laning phase kind of stats that you've been seeing, that he's pushing out right now, is a great indicator of honestly what he's been developing throughout the split, is being more focused on just understanding the minutia of the lane, getting a larger advantage, communicating, and getting a greater understanding of the jungle or like the players around him, being very team focused. I feel like, by the way, like a common point outside of the Lost discussion has been how Academy has been really competitive in the solo lane positions, both mid lane and top lane. I feel like Zion Spartan kind of showed that, being like a top 3 top laner for me. So yeah, I think his time here in Academy has been really fruitful, and he may not be that young gun that we're seeing in a lot of these players, but he still's got it.
I love it.
He's the bar to set. If you gotta put yourself up to Zion Spartan's level.
All right, I love to hear it. I love to hear it. There you have it, GMs. There's a little free advice for you from our desk here, but now you know what to do for 2021. I want to focus in now, though, on the matchup at hand. Summer 2020 Academy Finals. Number 1 and 2 seeds of the regular season facing off here. I want to know how you all rank each of these players against each other. Let's check out our match report card. Look at the beautiful faces.
Oh, man.
We even got some combos in there. We got Raztree time, and then we got
Razarim.
Yeah.
Razarim.
Razarim.
I love it. The greatest combo of all time.
Razlorum, I don't know. But across the board, there seems to be general consensus, I think, for each of the matchups on like where it might be favored, but some discrepancies in how favored those matchups are. So let's kind of dive into it one lane at a time. Starting in the top lane, we got Fudge versus Dokla.
All right, so I can see we were both leaning toward Fudge's side, and I think the primary reason for that is C9's playstyle, is that they typically play around their solo lanes in Fudge and Palafox. And while Fudge is a great player on his own, he's had a lot of great performances due to the advantages the jungle and mid lane get, and they bring that toward the top side. And Dokla's no slouch. I've seen Dokla do his work, so I don't want anyone to be sleeping on my boy Dokla. And I think a lot of the time he does play in these weak side matchups, and he does pretty well. So as long as Dokla can do his job, I think the matchup is more 50-50 than we think it is.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about this, because I'm on the side that put it like pretty heavily towards Fudge, and I recognize that Fudge gets the resources, Dokla does not. And in fact, going into the specifics, Dokla is actually has the lowest jungle proximity. He gets the lowest attention from junglers across the leagues. And he's pumping out good stats too. He's actually probably the best weak side top laner in Academy right now. But the problem is, you're going up against a person that sure gets the resources, gets all the cash, but he cashes out. He plays so damn well consistently, even during the early portions of the split, where Cloud9 Academy were on a 3-game losing streak and were not performing up to par. He was the consistent factor that was carrying the team across the line. And remember, a lot of the picks that he's going for aren't necessarily good in lane. Like the Camille picks a lot of the times are picks that wants to scale up. So the stats are not going to be jumping out at you in the first 10 minutes. But like the eye test definitely stands out for Fudge.
Right. The investment works.
Yes.
Yeah, don't underestimate Dokla, but he's going to be under a lot of pressure in this matchup. Let's talk about the other solo lane, mid lane, Palafox versus Evolved.
This is so close, I feel like. It might not end up being close in the games play out, but like, and they are very different players. But you want to talk about talent in Academy, these are definitely two players you want to look to. Palafox, like we've said, has been consistently good for a while now. Evolved, very new. This is his rookie year in Academy, his first year ever of professional playing. He's also very young. He's the same age as Fudge, I believe. But even though they play a bit differently and Palafox stats certainly look better here in lane, Evolved has carried so many games this year on TSM Academy, and I think if either of them can get an edge, especially if they want to be a bit more aggressive and actually challenge each other in lane, which would be the most exciting way for this matchup to play out, if they really go at each other and manage to establish an early foothold, they could snowball any one of these games in this best of 5.
Yeah, and take a look at the champion pool, like shared between both of them. Like already, you can already see that Palafox, of course, has a much larger champion pool that his team's willing to play him, and he is really comfortable with. He's a great assassin player. He works well within a 1-3-1 style that Cloud9 Academy can bring him. He's a great team fighter, so like the shared champion pool of Azir and all that, he can play those as well. But like for me, Orianna has been so damn good for Evolved here. Even though Evolved has like even though the shared champion pool, he may have a smaller pool that he's willing to play Orianna, Azir, all of these things. When I watch him team fight, it's sensational. So like, that's what makes it a 50-50 for me, even though you would expect me to go a little bit more heavier towards FLICKR. I think Evolve looks damn good.
I think, you know, we just got through a montage of Cat Evolved hitting every single Orianna ult, but they didn't show that Evolved has also missed many, many Orianna ults. But I think that's because he sees the cooldown is up. It's just, all right, I'm hitting my R key on the closest target nearby me. Whether it hits or doesn't, it's going back on cooldown. And so I do agree that these two players are pretty similar and that they have a lot of raw mechanics to them. I'm leaning toward Palafox purely because I think he's had more time to make, or time in the competitive scene to learn the more intricacies of the competitive matchups. And so I'm leaning toward Palafox here.
Well, Evolved will have to be hitting those shockwaves today if he wants to make a difference in this matchup, because what I'm starting to discern from all this conversation is that it's the tale of two differences. The differences in the solo lanes for Cloud9 against the difference in the bot lane for TSM.
That's right. Can it be?
Why is there a difference? I mean, so Lost in Treats look incredible. They somehow look even better in playoffs as well, which is this weird trend that I keep seeing from them in the 2v2, where sometimes they'll have pretty lukewarm regular seasons, and then all of a sudden they'll like figure out how they want to play the game and just start completely dominating everyone. They had 2 days of practice with Treats last weekend and comfortably swept their series. They have more than a week of practice now together, and this is a 2v2 that just works so well together. So Diamond is very good, Tobo is very new, but has shown a lot of promise. But it just, like, when I compare the experience and the talent and what the 2 bot lanes have shown, they're very different teams, and TSM wants to play through bot lane, and by all accounts, they should be able to be very successful in this series.
And here's the thing, the stats that popped up on the screen is what makes it so frustrating to play up against TSM Academy. Like, the 30% forward percentage between Treats and Lost, like, they are a team that will, first of all, pick the best matchups for their duo lane, and then they are so damn good, of course, specifically Lost. So if you give him Kalista, it feels like an instant loss. If you give him Ashe, like a really good matchup, they will pummel you with not just the jungle pressure, but like they will put the pressure on you, and so you gotta really attack it in the pick ban.
Well, and as you mentioned, Pick Ban, we have found ourselves into it. The band's already hitting the table. So real quick, before we let you go, Pastry, to give us the call, I want to get your thoughts on who's going to take this series.
As always, my vote is for the fans, so it's going to be a hashtag fans win for me.
Boom, there it is. The fans are going to win. Well, we're going to let Pastry go hop into the other call with Crumbs to give us the call. But before we go to them, Raz, who you taking?
Cloud9 Academy, I ain't hedging bets. I ain't running away like he
How
just
many
did.
games? What are you thinking? 3-1, 3-2, 3-0?
3-1, 3-1.
3-1. Alorum, what about you?
I've got to cheer for Dokla and Lost, my former teammates. Hashtag TSM win. No
All right.
TSM XD.
One vote on either side. It's left to the teams to decide it. And with that, we're tossing it over to Pastry, who's joined Crumbs to give us the call.
Hello and welcome everybody to the grand finals of Academy Worlds. It is finals time here in Academy. Cloud9 versus TSM, they have been on the top of the standings all split long. It is very fitting that they meet here in the finals, Crumbs. And 6 bands are already done, so I guess we should talk about what's happening, because TSM have been given not just Akali, Crumbs, but also Kalista.
Hey, yeah, Pastry. We also get a little bit of a run back for all those spring aficionados. Fudge, in their 3-0 against Evil Geniuses last split, it was 3 games of first picking set. It went to the top lane all of those times. Now, Inori has been really good at playing it in the jungle, but this flex is something that C9 has done so much work with over the year.
Yeah, it certainly seems like both these teams are in pretty prime form off their semifinals appearance. But bands are almost done here, actually. These teams drafting very quickly here for the first encounter. Olaf, Caitlyn, Graves, Morgana, Gangplank, Shen, and Galio to catch you up on all the bands. First pick set was answered by the 2 champs you mentioned on TSM. They took Volibear as the last pick out of this phase, and then Ashe for Tomo alongside the Azir for Palafox, which is a nice takeaway from Evolved as well. Very curious to see how Assassin vs Control Mage stacks up, as Tom Kench also going to get removed from Diamond's pool. So again, we kind of heard, Raz and Alorum talking about this, where Lost and Treats are trying to pick the winningest possible 2v2.
And they are getting that 2v2 picked apart by the bands. No Blitz Kalista combo to pull you into the depths of the TSM squad. And even a Malphite getting banned out here against Fudge, which is pretty interesting. That makes me think that Fudge might be thinking not about playing the set himself, but maybe some sort of split pusher or a physical damage champion that would be countered by the Malphite.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Set, of course, very flexible, seeing it quite a lot in the jungle as well. So certainly room to maneuver that champion to lots of different places, and that might be the ticket. Nautilus was the pick for TSM, kind of having to fall down a bit in picks, but Thresh for Diamond's a signature pick of his, and it is indeed a flex there of the set. It's Jace top lane for Fudge, so he is going for maximum 1v1 potential.
He is going to throw the gauntlet against Dokla. He has counter picks, so let's see what Dokla chooses to go into the Jace. Wukong is a fine pick. You have a lot of lane pressure. You can survive the lane. You're obviously going to fall behind, but it's one where Fudge has to play very carefully. This is a champion that can creep out of nowhere, hit that Conqueror proc, and suddenly you've just got one shot just by you were winning the lane.
We haven't seen him in a minute, but Wukong going to be the showing here for Dokla. Certainly looking at Winston and Inori to get involved potentially in this matchup. We basically assume Cloud9 are going to go there, so Winston going to have to be good on covering his top laner if they don't want things to get too out of hand. Because we've seen the script right now for Cloud9. It is get Fudge ahead as much as you possibly can.
It always works for C9 to get Fudge ahead, though the composition space here, I think a lot of action is going to have to go to the bottom lane. 2 hook champions, an aggro bot laner with an Ashe that's also trying to potentially threaten a kill with the Thresh, and junglers that are heavy ganks. With all the other lanes not having a lot of setup, I think this game is going to be just a bloodbath into the bottom lane. Where those solo lanes will come in is with their teleports, who can get those best TPs down to the bottom lane.
And the thing I like about this is, like, we already set up, like, top versus bot for Cloud9 and TSM respectively, but we've actually got, like, an I hate to use this kind of word, but like interesting mid lane matchup, right? A lot more volatile than the control mage versus control mage, and not just trying to farm up and play mid-game team fights, while both Akali and Azir need time to get online. They play out very differently once the map has opened up. So there is kind of this fun thing where we are going to get to see Evolved on a more like high agency champion, right? This is a champion that he can certainly overperform on, but Palafox has also been looking very strong. So with champion selected, we are going to get into our first game. Let's take a look at the starting rosters. Alrighty, here it is. Out on the Summoner's Rift for game number 1. Cloud9 Academy versus TSM Academy for all the marbles crumbs in Academy Worlds, as is tradition towards the end of the Academy season. Both these teams have looked great all season long. Both of them have held the number 1 spot at some point in the regular standings. They're the 1 and 2 seeds moving in the playoffs. They are finally meeting in the grand finals, and what a finals it should be.
And they are going to be starting off very aggressively. Every team, every player in the world just watched the LPL finals and saw how ridiculous the level 1s got. FlyQuest was a team that showed a little bit of what you could accomplish with that kind of level 1 preparation, and C9 already looked for something. They saw that it was scouted out, so they backed off, but I like seeing that they came into it just zooming straight for the pixel brush, seeing if they could find an early level 1 kill.
Well, unfortunately for them, no such kill turned up, so everyone is just going to move out and fan out once again. No deep wards is kind of the other thing here. There's just 1 blue ward in the left side of the river right now for Cloud9, so just spotting any potential verticality from Winston if he does want to go buff to buff on the full left side. And Inori on the jungle set, as we mentioned, because Jace is up there for Fudge. He's going to start solo on the red buff, so same buff start for both junglers, but they'll be pathing down towards opposite sides of the map.
Inori's role this game is going to be really useful as the set to punt out a lot of these divers like the Akali and the Wukong, who is already off to a very aggressive level 1, got in range of Fudge, hammered him away, and is just trading a little bit of that regen with his shield for the corrupting potions out of Fudge.
Yeah, Fudge getting pretty good value out of the corrupting pot, although he does pop a second charge there to get some additional harass down, and of course keep his health nice and, well, healthy. Dokla diving back in. Here's Inori with a level 2 gank, though. I guess we could have said we predicted this. Dokla still only level 1. Inori going to wrap around here. Oh, he flashes in. He just wants it right now. Dokla with a great flash out there, but the face breaker is good. And that's going to be first blood over to the Cloud9 jungler.
What a great adaptation out of Inori, going straight from red buff into the top side. And Dokla is now kicking himself for being so aggressive early on. He really didn't have another way to play out the lane, so it was so much about Inori and Fudge setting this up. He's just fighting, hoping to kill some creeps, but they're nowhere near dying, so he has no way out.
Yeah, really well played there for Inori as well, just instantly closing the gap and then holding onto his face breaker to try and catch him post-flash. All good there in the top side as Fudge is already going to be 8 CS up, although I imagine Dokla will even that out as the wave crashes towards his tower, but that's going to give Fudge a very big boost in the lane. I guess Dokla can be happy that he didn't get the kill, but Inori will also be happy with how that worked out. So just a good little bit of prep there and a great bit of improvisation there for Inori, punishing early in the top side. Mid lane, though, definitely what we expect here in this matchup early on. Palafox is pushing the Akali in, but Evolved, he'll be a much more impactful in the middle section of this game. In fact, both these mid laners will probably check in with at about 15 minutes to see if what they've been getting done in any sort of skirmish. Inori, they're going to maybe punish Winston more. Here's the Hex Flash in. Smite is good for Winston. He's now level 4. Should be fine here. Fudge is behind Inori, but Dokla also closer, so Cloud9 will not be able to pick up that scuttle.
Oh, you actually see how important the water walking is for a lot of these junglers when it comes to the scuttle fights. Just being able to have that extra little bit of movement speed does keep Winston away from Inori, who was just in range to, or just out of range from hitting that face breaker and comboing with Fudge.
The other thing is, we're checking in across the early stages of these lanes, is that I last saw Lost in Treats under their tower, I thought, farming minions, and they're 10 CS ahead almost of Tomo and Diamond as they go for their first recall. Like, Tomo is going to pick up a couple here, but that is a pretty big just lane lead early on here. I mean, Tomo looks like he's already taken a recall because he does have a Cull next to that Doran's, but very interesting to see what happened in that bottom lane, given that all sums are back up. I'm not sure if it was just a bad recall timing or if the waves had just been bounced back and forth, so the CS discrepancy looks worse than it is. But we are expecting Lost in Treats to get an early advantage in any 2v2 they play in Academy, and this lane is certainly going to be no exception.
If I had to guess what happened, I'm going to attribute it to the junglers. Always jungle diff, because Inori starting red side, pathing all the way top, who showed so early, made it clear that he was not going to be able to go to the bottom side anytime soon, while Winston, who started red, was going to pass to the bot side. So Tomo and Diamond had to be really respectful of Winston potentially showing up for a gank the same way that Inori did to Dokla. So I think that that's what went down. And here they are again looking to punish as the wave is starting to build up out of C9, pushing the... Ooh, not going to catch the Winston.
That hook shot may be the undoing of Tomo and Diamond in the 2v2. There's the hook going to land in onto Diamond. Play out there to try to protect himself. He's been ignited, but he's not dead just yet. I take it all back. Treats, with the spears being ripped out, is able to take the kill with his ignite.
What a great spear there out of Lost, and what looked like a really far-fetched gank actually gets pulled off. Great calculation out of the damage. I thought Diamond was surely out of that one, but the flash stun from Winston makes sure that everything gets chained together, and now the bottom lane strategy that TSM was so gung-ho about starting to come to fruition. No flashes out of Tomo and Diamond, and those won't be coming up when the level 6s are on Treats and Lost.
Yeah, just the exhaust left now. And Diamond even had Aftershock and it procced and still didn't live, unfortunately, through all that damage. So a very nicely timed setup there with the gank from Winston. As top lane continues, Dokla for getting first blooded is actually keeping this lane extremely respectable. Wukong, when we last saw him, was basically like the quintessential weak side top laner. Like, he always fell behind. I think you're expecting him to make up for it in the mid game with his team fighting. Tomo, they're going to get grabbed up here. Here's the Hex Slash from Inori. Play there from Diamond's going to slow down Treats. He's going to have to flash and will. But that's going to be all she wrote there in that attempt from Cloud9 as they look to answer the pressure in the bottom lane.
Oh, I wonder if Lantern was down out of Diamond. I thought Inori was going to get Lanterned in and would have been in a better position. Instead, he goes for the Hex Flash, try to proc that Nimbus Cloak movement speed to close the gap. But Treats having Flash still means that TSM's bot lane gets a favorable trade. No TP on the Ashe. They get to crash this wave and deny some more CSs. There's already a discrepancy of 16 in the bottom lane pace here. That is pretty large this early on.
Yeah, coming up on 3 waves or so. I mean, Diamond will get what he can, but that difference will stick between the two ADs now as Lost will take yet another back. He's got the build order already. It's that Vamp Scepter up for Tomo, so it does seem like both of them might be trending towards Blade of the Ruined King. And level 6 now for both these mid laners, but as expected, it is just some early farming. Powerfox, again as expected, is up on CS here versus Evolved. Evolved trying to keep it within 10, which is, I think, probably just fine. Again, it's more about what impacts he can have in the side lanes, so he does get the wave pushing. Going to roam out and cover Winston, but he doesn't need the help. At least this time, he's able to get that left side grab.
And the mid lane, I'm not expecting a lot of action here without the influence of the junglers and possibly supports. If the Nautilus shows up into the mid lane, now you can actually start thinking about taking down the Azir, but you already see that he's been playing the laning phase to a way that he's not even burning any potions himself, so he's not in a position to endanger him or the rest of the team. He's just happy to farm off because the range advantage he has will actually be a huge asset against Kalista, who is the win condition at the moment of TSM. So as long as Azir gets to farm, he'll be completing his job as a later win condition for Cloud9.
Well, all that bot lane pressure is going to mean the first dragon goes over to TSM. They'll pick up that Ocean nice and easy. And again, Kalista going to make that exchange much simpler than it even was, which was already pretty straightforward. Treat's also getting his roam on into the mid lane, but I think they're actually just straight transferring top lane through the front door as they walk through mid lane and are going to go straight for the objective because Cloud9 are indeed looking to trade objectives.
Thresh is also coming here, so I think TSM might be wanting to commit having everybody here going for this, and with the recall from Wukong to try to answer the bot lane. This is TSM being ahead to the play when it comes to an objective game, which is what was their weakness in the matches of the regular season between Cloud9 and TSM. So this is a very much improved look out of TSM, and I think it has to be the fact that Treats came back into the lineup. They didn't look as good with Bifrost. They obviously were going to take a lot of time, but somehow they look better with him during playoffs than they looked during the regular season, despite not having played together for about a 2-week period.
Yeah, there's just something about Lost in Treats in playoffs. I don't know what it is exactly, but maybe when the games matter more, they just like focus on the game and perhaps get scarier as they get deeper into the event. But whatever it is, Lost in Treats seems like they haven't missed a beat. In fact, they somehow upgraded their laning capability, it felt like, despite not playing with each other for, I think, almost a month, like quite a while, I think.
The classic improvement without practice. You just take a little bit of a break, a mental reset, and you approach the problem with a fresh new set of eyes. And that might be just what TSM needed, because I'm sure they were not happy with how their season ended, despite it being so high that they got a bye. It wasn't a season that was able to take down Cloud9, who they knew from the very beginning was going to be their top rivals. Halfway through the split, everybody's already saying C9 is the team to watch out. TSM has the record, but TSM or C9 is the team that is coming on the up and up. So it was about TSM refining themselves in anticipation for what the C9 match was going to be.
Yep, and unfortunately then TSM could not prove that they were the better team in the regular season versus Cloud9, because Cloud9 just didn't stop losing by the end of it. But certainly this is a pretty good spot to get some revenge crumbs, as Lost is going to get a plate down there, plate and a half actually, down on that bottom lane tower, so getting close to even more gold stacking up for himself, as that CS difference has not really slowed down, still holding at 16. Bottom lane Winston is here once again. He's got the Rift Herald as well, so I think I see the plan, Crumbs. Regardless of which outcome you get, this is going to be a positive gold increase for the TSM duo. It's kind of a matter of how much gold you get.
They might be thinking about a dive if the wave was any bigger. They don't know Winston is here just yet, but with the way that Nautilus is moving so boldly, they have to assume that something is up. The top lane is letting the wave shove in, and Akali's playing aggressive with bot lane pushing. So with no vision, C9 should have some knowledge that Winston is either mid or in the bot side of the map. And with the Rift Herald having already been taken, he's got no reason to be in the top side. And so they will just try to scout out any vision, leave the lane, make sure that they're not positioning themselves in a trap that the Volibear can just spring out of nowhere by disabling the turret.
Yeah, TP used to get back to lane for Palafox. He was eating the wrong end of some trades there, but I think mostly was just trying to push the wave and get back to buy the Nashes, which he now has. Evolve is still working on that Gunblade. That really is the first point where Akali can start to get some work done, especially if you're taking Fleet for the lane and not taking stuff like Ignite, because you're a team player, not a solo queue player. Akali does need that first item to really get to her point of power, but Evolve should be there relatively soon. Probably needs to close up a few more farm before then. But I'm curious to see how much pressure Evolve can put on the mid lane, or really just the side lane. We see this a lot from Giyu over in Evil Genius's Academy when he was on the Akali, when they swept their first round playoff series, where it wasn't so much about the impact in lane. In fact, Giyu fell behind quite a lot in the early stages of the game, but as soon as the map opens up and you give Akali access to a side lane, it's just very difficult to put someone down there that's going to be able to easily outduel her. And if you can constantly get picks in the side lane, it's very easy for your team to open up the game.
And Akali is a kind of champion that when you think of the matchups, she'll always have a positive matchup, and that's why you want to put her in the side lanes, whether it's going to be against the Jace or the Azir, or even in a 1v2 against the Ashe and the Thresh. With a little bit of help, you just think, where can Akali find a kill? And as long as she's matching that person, TSM will have pressure despite her falling behind in the laning phase. So that's what they're looking for, and once they can crack this mid lane turret or this bot lane turret, then you can start rotating the bottom lane around, positioning that Akali in that precious side lane situation that can start getting those kills and those collapses from the side lane into mid on her own, and that's when TSM's composition really gets rolling, because at the moment all the pieces are still spread out in the lanes. They have yet to come together, but they're going to be rewarded with 2 dragons just from the work that Treats and Loss have put in this bot lane.
Yeah, this early game for TSM has just been all this 2v2 with quite a lot of help, to be honest, from Winston, but putting pressure in the right places, make it 2 Drakes and almost that first tower. Great grab there from Treats. He's got the ulti, he's going to let it rip, and Lost is going to jump on the opportunity because Diamond is absolutely dead. Oh, the fail flash as well, just to put salt in the wound as Treats will pick up kill credit.
The salt in the wound, the thumbs up emote, the good luck, the good try, whatever you want to mean. It is something that will sting on Diamonds because they're losing the first brick as well, and there's nothing that TSM can, or that C9 can do. They don't have a Herald. They don't have a way to answer here in the top side. It's just Dokla farming away. He will be denied, but it's nowhere near as impactful as losing so much in the bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, Dokla loves to flash that emote. This is fine, Soraka, because this happens to him a lot where he's just put in positions where he's on the weak side. Unfortunately for him, it does seem like his tower with no plates is weak enough that it is going to be gold given over to Cloud9. But it is not the first tower. That one's already taken in the bottom lane, so just a bit of extra gold, but Dokla sticks around to grab the last bit of farm. And given that, again, he got first blooded, credit to Dokla for being such a good weak side player. He's kept the farm even all matchup long. Even though this was his counter pick, Wukong definitely not a champion you typically pick for lane, and again, the jungler came to his lane at level 2, so far so good in the top side of the map for TSM. We'll see if Fudge can open things up a little bit more as the map starts to open up. First item's also being completed on just about everyone. It is just the Triforce for Dokla that we're waiting on as far as first major items go, but in the meantime, Treats and Lost are back up to trying to knock down towers because they're strong and they want to try and flex that advantage in a different lane now.
And they're here sooner because of how quick they took that bot lane turret. Dokla gets to move to the bottom lane to crash the turret, or catch that turret, that minion wave from crashing. And now you've got Winston remanning with the bot lane again. This is the play for the Herald. This is the classic once the laning phase breaks out. Jungler just follows the duo lane the whole way through. It's the strongest point right now. It's unfortunate that the Nautilus has both the kills, but with the build that he's currently going, he does position himself to be very aggressive and makes it quite hard for C9 to continue to contest these objectives. So the pace that TSM is setting is just a little bit ahead of C9, and that's why the gold is so close, but the objective game is definitely in their favor. It is a little unfortunate that the dragon is going to be the Cloud Soul, but these champions do get a little bit of value out of that one. Being able to pop the ultimate and get in there right away can be very useful for something like an Akali, a Wukong, and even a Kalista, just to be so quick in the engages.
Yeah, I think even Volley pretty happy. Certainly no team will not take Assault if it's offered to them. So not a bad one, but maybe not the most exciting one as Loft's getting involved. Oh, we're starting to get shot there. It's a bad time, but the hook is going to land in onto Diamond. He does have his flash and his seal into stasis. Diamond goes. The arrow is out, but the Fate's call is going to push them back in. It's just going to be a 2v2 kill by the looks of things. Indeed it is, as Loft's going to flash out after getting that kill. Tomo still firing away onto Treats, but he hooks away to the wall. As Palafox rotating up as well alongside Fudge, who TP'd in. Winston is going to run interference, does get the stun. He's going to throw his life away for the team, but now he's Stormbringer's in. It's 2 TPs now for TSM as Dokla is going to get the spin straight into the back line, and the Vault is going to take his chance, diving in, looking for the assassination, grabs it on the Fudge, dances on the Palafox with a shuriken flip, going to get pushed back there by the Azir, but he's going to use the brush to his advantage. As Lost, he's able to get Palafox as well. TSM, despite the TPs coming in from Cloud9, they're the ones that answer the team fight.
Pastry, what has happened to TSM? That was so freaking good. The turn from Winston to protect the team from getting shuffled by Azir, who had everything available and ready to go, and then the TPs right away. It starts with TSM being really aggressive in the bottom lane. This is, again, the strongest point out of TSM. For C9 to be taking these fights, it's not going to work. The ultimate gets fizzled out by the Fate's Call. Free kill onto Diamond, and here's where you're thinking, okay, the Ashe has the Frost Rush, she's going to chase everybody down, and then Winston sees what's happening. Everybody has the call from the TP. Great stun out of him, tanks the set ultimate, and then goes even further in to make room for Dokla and Evolve to get in. This has been one of Winston's weaknesses going in for these engages, but he gives his life so well here for the rest of the team to clean house. Just such a good execution and collapse out of TSM, knowing that everybody needed to get involved in that play for it to work.
And work it did. TSM up now. Closing in on 2,000 gold. You can see the damage in the last fight. Powerfox certainly put the work in, but wasn't able to quite get those kills racking up. 6-2 now in kills in favor of TSM, and they're still working on the next tower with the Rift Tower that Winston does still have. Tomo getting invaded on now, deep into their right side jungle. This feels bad, man. He's getting pushed out of his lane. Evolved is taking the Krugs that he was trying to grab. And looks like it is going to be Dragon number 3 here for TSM as they are very quickly approaching a Snowball Soul.
C9 is trading. They have the Jace pushing the top lane turret. It's going to be answered by the Wukong, so they're not going to be able to get anything beyond a few waves of creeps. But at this point, I think Cloud9 needs to have come to the realization that Lost, Treats, and Winston are a single unit. Wherever one is, there's going to be 2 more. And if they start thinking that way, they can start reacting to what TSM is trying to do. Because look at how close they're lingering. We have seen them in the past 10 minutes. They are just playing the buddy system in 3s, and it's working very well because C9 has not caught on to it just yet. I think after that play top, they'll quickly realize what is up, and they'll try to avoid these fights and position themselves to just get these laning advantages from the Jace instead of taking the sure 3v3s that are not going their way, because Lost is frankly a full hurricane up on Tomo.
Yeah, they're potentially building the same items here, and Lost is, fully completed item up right now, as you mentioned. And theoretically, knowing where the jungler always is makes the game easier to play, but not when Lost and Treats are playing this well. In fact, all 3 of them have been contributing so much to the successful early game for TSM. Cloud9 now trying to stay grouped up together, but again, this is where kind of phase 2 of the plan for TSM comes to fruition. Dokla with his Triforce is down in one side lane. Evolve with his, 1.5 items, including some Sork shoes, is in the other side lane. So the 1-3-1 can begin, or some sort of split pushing side lane pressure game. Rift Tower even going to be dropped top lane just to try and put additional pressure on an outer tower.
So I was actually watching some high elo streams the other day where Lost and Treats were hard carrying games on the Kalista with other supports in the bot lane. I'm talking 1v5 kind of games, and Nautilus was one of the combinations that they were running, but picks like the Kalista and Gragas were other champions that they were messing with, which just shows that this is a very prepared 2v2 that is ready and capable of just taking games by storm. With the Hurricane, you are in that position to be able to take down multiple divers at the same time. So picks like the Set and like the Jace that eventually want to hammer in, or even like an Azir, can just get outplayed. And if you don't execute on the dive against Kalista, that fight is lost, and Palafox is getting dove.
Oh, Palafox is really smooth though. Evolved is going to go into stasis, but the arrow not going to connect. His Truth trying to complete the dive, but Lost is here as well. Inori going to dunk him out, but Evolve does finally find the kill, but he gets traded off there by Inori. Now Lost looking to chase another kill down, but now Treats is kind of caught out of position. It's a 3v3, but C9 have the sandwich ready. Winston going to take a tower shot. Inori going in, the hook lands in, but Fudge has now arrived onto the scene. That's going to be Treats' sacrifice, so Winston is going to go down as well. What a slow there from Tomo to try and ensure Winston goes down, but he holds onto his flash, has to burn the ulti, and does get away.
TSM once again is the aggressors, but this time C9 was much quicker to react. They were positioned and ready, and with the Cloud Dragon, it actually makes it a lot easier for them to move from mid lane into a top side, because the wind allows the collapse to be nearly instantaneous, and the stopwatches also buy even more time for them to collapse onto that fight. So TSM still probably feeling like they are in the driver's seat, but with a little bit of caution now, as there's a dragon in 2 minutes. That is the objective that every team knows will be contested. So trying to farm up right now and secure those last little bits of gold to try to spike at the right time. TSM looks much more completed with their itemization. The Aegis is already on the Kalista, and still no Hurricane on the Ashe. That's the big one.
Yeah, I just don't know if Tomo's going to be able to get there in time and make it back for the objective, right? I think he will have time to farm the gold as Inori looking for Treats, but here's a TP in from TSM. This could be Dokla. No, he's already in the front side. There's Evolve with the pincer completed. Dokla, though, is going to get slammed down, but Evolve dives in, gets one executed, and looks for the second, flashes in with a Q, doesn't get it, but he goes into stasis off that fresh port. Zonya's in TSM. They'll just take every fight, and they made that one look awfully easy.
Whoa, C9 is feeling like they can take any fight that they want, Pastry, but they were not ready for how quickly TSM was going to collapse on that. The teleport from Evolve and Dokla just flashing in over the Emperor's Divide. This is certainly going to be a Baron. C9 might have the tools with which to steal. The Hex Flash can get over the wall and Smite will be available, but they're just going to turn and take them down
so
to
easy.
no chance of a steal.
Yeah, and Ori's going to pop the W for a bit of extra health. Good amount of damage as well, but Evolve's had the Shuriken right there already on the set, so that's an easy follow-up for him, and that's going to be Baron over to TSM as well, unless Fudge can find a number of accelerated shock blasts in a row. Certainly not a steal available. They're just going to have to try and poke them off the Baron. It's going to be 3v5. The Baron is helping the DPS for Cloud9.
There's no arrow yet. They're just going to have a little bit of vision. Here we go.
Yeah, Treats getting hooked up, but again, TSM will turn and try and take the fight. Winston is already going to take down Diamond. He tries to slow Tomo, but TSM want to finish this Baron. Lost must have so many spears in it by now, as they are going to just try and finish it. Dokla diving in once again. The hook is going to miss, but Lost, I think, can just finish it. Winston is going to walk in and look to get the Baron. It is Lost that secures it at the end of the day, but he is going to fall as Winston dives back in to get the kill. Powerfox, though, what a play! It's going to try and turn it back around, but Evolved! He finds the outplay, procs the passive in the fleet for a little bit of extra health before executing Powerfox. And now Winston versus Fudge, the battle for the Blast Cone, and Winston decides he'd rather not do it. Instead, he's just going to get out and preserve one more Baron buff for TSM.
Whoa, 2 Barons get out of that one. That was so close. A Baron dance out of TSM that was actually really well done with how close it was. Now, they still have a Nautilus ultimate. They're waiting for C9 to commit to the engage. Hooks get traded. Nautilus ulted the Azir, and then the fight begins. Yes, Diamond goes down, Ashe flashes away, but the Baron is still aggroed. They can go back to it, and now the carries are deep into the pit. They have no way to go in. It's only Dokla who can be the front line there to use the ultimate to buy a little bit of time for the Ren, which came at a clutch time because Kalista was about to go down, deleting all those Ren stacks, and then Evolved with just a huge play out of the Shroud to keep the Baron and take down Powerfox.
Yeah, I did notice when I first watched it, and I confirmed it in the replay, Winston actually chilling smote somebody. It was Tomo after the flash to try and chase him down. So they had a lot of confidence that Lost had enough spears to take that Baron, with Inori also being off the map after he got taken out. So Evolve now, oh goodness. It's going to be a little bit of flex in here on the bottom side of the map. Nautilus going to make that one awfully easy as Evolve is getting arrowed. Great stasis though, he's fine.
Wow, great time to have that. Zanya's completed, and really good heads up on that arrow. I'm not sure how they actually saw that coming, but the quick fingers keep him alive and well with a 550 gold bounty. This is a pick, Pastry, the Akali, that is just so powerful. Every region, the teams that can play it, the teams that can flex it, she is truly an incredible champ right now. And we saw in that chat earlier, this is not a shared pool with Powerfox. We haven't seen him play the Akali yet. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got it down, but clearly the teams that play it are willing to show it and are prepared to play with a mid lane assassin, and it looks like TSM is that and Cloud9 is not.
Yeah, it's obviously easy to say this in hindsight, but this draft feels a bit disrespectful from Cloud9, if I'm being honest. Giving Lost Kalista and Evolved Akali when you know they're happy to blind pick those champions and they're very proficient on them. They're certainly paying the price now, Crumbs, but I'm not sure we'll be seeing both of these champions especially again for TSM after this kind of performance. So the game is not done. Cloud9 very far down. 5,000 gold here at 26.5 minutes as the Baron buff is wearing off for TSM. There is still fight left in the draft for Cloud9. Again, in particular, looking at Powerfox, he's approaching item number 3. Tomo will get there at some point as well. And Fudge maybe has some pressure on the side lane he can look to throw out as well. But TSM certainly leveraging their gold lead into what could be a quick soul, as they did miss out on the 4th dragon the last time it's spawned, but they'll have a chance to fight for it in 2.5 minutes. And we've certainly learned that TSM are willing to take fights.
They will use those TPs the second that they know the fight is committing. And the wards have been great, frankly. I think TSM, it's so hard to credit teleports to the player specifically that is just TPing, because when you're playing the split pushing side, it's up to the team to not only start a fight, but set the wards that allow you to TP to them. And if the wards are poor, your TP looks even worse, or if their wards are laid out far away from the fight, it's not going to look as clean as it should be. So a big credit to this 3-man roaming squad, which really has just been together ever since the laning phase began, it seems like it is all about Treats, Lost, and Winston together that have been such a thorn in C9's side, who are not playing that same game of a 3-man roam squad, and when they're not doing that, they have to be even more effective with the solo lanes, and they haven't been because of how well Evolved and Dokla have been playing and just surviving and diffusing the pressure that comes inherently from the Azir and Jace matchups.
Yeah, death cap already for Evolved seems like a real struggle in a minute and 20 seconds, and you have to fight for this next Soul Dragon. Palafox is working on it, but he's not there quite yet. Evolved has also closed the CS gap that developed in the laning phase because of all the free time on the side lanes. And Dokla's done his job. He played weak side wonderfully despite getting first blooded. And it's just continued to contribute to team fights the way Dokla has all year long. He's been so reliable for TSM Academy, both in spring and summer. And yeah, Lost has a death dance now, so the odds are not stacked in Cloud9's favor, let's put it that way. But they are going to have to take the fight, whether they like it or not, Crumbs. 45 seconds till that Dragon Soul is going to spawn again for TSM.
And that's just Lost because, like you pointed out, the death cap on Akali, huge. But normally when I see Akali, okay, where's the magic resist at? There is no magic resist. 3 squishy champions and a very fed Akali with Flash can take her pick of the litter and just delete whoever she wants out of the C9 lineup. These 3 carries are so vulnerable that somebody has to be marking her, and it's up to Inori. He can't be looking for that wombo combo engage. They have to use their CC as peel tools. TSM is diving. They have to respect it.
TSM are fighting a 45, by the way. Treats is already going to go in there. TP is going to come in for Dokla as expected. There's the old Avanori. Treats is going to be the one Fate's called back in, and there's Fudge going to get re-engaged on a 3-man knock up there as the support flies in, as Dokla is going to zoom into the rest of the team, and Evolve's going to be straight behind him. That is going to be basically an ace, as the 4th kill will happen as Inori is going to have to limp away, and Dokla will collect 3 in that team fight, and TSM, they don't even want the soul anymore.
They want to end the game. They've got a minion wave in the top side. If they can just tank this and the TP will come in to keep it alive, they're definitely going to have this pastry. They can just tank the Nexus turrets this way through, keep the wave alive, lower those resistances, and start game 1 off with a bang.
Yeah, look at that little cannon minion there doing the bulk of the work, and Nori going to dive in. He's going to try and buy as much time as he can. He knows he's going to die for this play, but he lives quite a long time. The ace, though, will be completed by Lost. And the next minion wave comes in right on time for TSM to look to end this game. Now Diamond up to the plate alongside Tomo, who's just respawned. But TSM are going to knock down the next Nexus turret. The Nexus now open. Evolve is looking to dive for his 8th kill of the game, and the Nexus will fall before he can grab it. It's all TSM in game number 1.
Super impressive bottom lane performance. They had a lead from the very beginning. They ran away with it. The jungler knew exactly where we had to play. And the solo lanes playing weak side did a great job in surviving despite the pressure that was put on them. So many players would tilt from the first game, from that level 1 gank that the set did, but Dokla held it down, so did Evolve, and when it came to team fights, they grouped up and obliterated C9.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced at this point that Dokla is untiltable, and Lost and Treats just continue to turn in superstar performance after superstar performance, but I don't think you should be giving Evolve that much agency in the mid-game. Let me just put it that way. His Akali looked ridiculous in those fights.
I think we're going to see very different picks out of the C9 solo lanes moving forward, because what they played in the semifinals was so different from Jace and Azir, Lucian, Aurelius. Like, these are the picks that I'm expecting moving forward, and this game 1 was more of a test.
Yeah, I think Cloud9 picked a very stable draft, right? Picked a lot of good meta champions, kind of set up the game in a way that would happily probably blind into the majority of matchups, and kind of paid the price, I think, for giving TSM a few too many comfort picks. Certainly we know that both these teams have very wide champion pools, so there's a lot of differences that we can see, but as far as game 1 goes, TSM looking absolutely on form as they do take the victory, but we are going to step away, and after the break, the State Farm Analyst Stats will be breaking down the game.
Welcome back to Academy Worlds, where TSM is out to a quick lead in the series. 1-0 now stands the score. And Mark Z has joined us to break down the series as it happens. How you doing, Mark?
Great. I'm excited to be here. I got some new artwork behind me, so I stopped having just a boring white wall, and I'm excited to talk about the best players in the world in Academy.
I'm glad you could fit us in your busy schedule. You finally come and join us.
Got a lot going on during this global pandemic, dude. I don't know. Let's get through this.
Yeah, for real. What are fans going to rage about now in terms of your setup with all those beautiful posters up in the background? Well, Mark, let's dive into it. I want to get your initial perceptions game one, because we had a whole bunch of setup about where we thought the differences would be in lanes. A couple people saying, hey, C9's going to be favored in the solo lanes, TSM in the bot. Your perception coming out of game one?
I mean, people were half right. There's a big difference in the bot lane,
right.
and I think top lane, I've been more impressed by Fudge all year long, like a lot of people had, but they use red side super well to kind of stop some of those differences in the top lane potentially, and Dokla has been good, and then, Lost and Treats just absolutely stomped this game.
Yeah, I saw it through, honestly, just the jungle pressure. Like, Winston was sitting in that tri-bush waiting for an opportunity to gank for it, and then when he did, then Lost was let go. He was unleashed. And you even saw in a lot of the fights that ended up happening throughout the game that was led by him. When he felt confident, he challenged for the play. So I'm excited to see more Kalista play from him. I actually personally thought it would be banned, because every time we go up against TSM Academy, they're not allowed to have Kalista. It's just not, we won't let it happen. So I want to see, like, if the drafts kind of, if there are differences going into the next few games.
And I liked TSM's draft because they had multiple options of where to play around. They had the counter pick on top, which was Wukong versus Jace. That's pretty favorable for Wukong. Although they didn't decide to go that route, they ended up going into the bot side, and Dokla did have an early death. I liked that they at least had the options to choose which side they wanted to play around. And Dokla, I told you guys not to sleep on him. My boy whips out the Wukong. I see you, Dokla. I'm watching you, and I'm admiring.
Yeah. I love the negative 14.8 jungle proximity difference. He's getting hard targeted, one CSD difference. Just one. Yeah. He fell behind by one. That's incredible that he stayed so relevant to the game with zero help.
He died, and he just made his way back in. He was just farming, and I think that was fine because he was able to find some key ults in later team fights, which Cat Evolved really played well off of to clean up the fights.
Yes, and by the way, I want to just point out just a small little bit of detail. It's not even like an ordinary gank towards top lane. The guy literally, Inori literally went reds directly top. Like, imagine trying to ward for that. Just a level 2 gank for.
And if I counter, oh man, if I counter pick a Jace and I see Set go red to top, I'm already mad. So good on Dokla to stay untilted and just keep in the game. I'm glad
because he saw what was going on. He saw what was going on bot. He was like, I'm not going to tilt. My bot is running them over. Treats hit hook after hook. Almost every single fight throughout the early and mid game was keyed off of Treats and Lost. So, if your bot lane's stomping, it's easy to go, you know what? I'm cool. I'm fine. I'm farming.
Did any of you guys actually see him in the middle of the game when he was getting targeted a little bit? He threw up the Soraka "It's Fine" emote. I think because he knew that whole time. He's like, dude, you guys can keep coming to my lane, but I know my team is getting it done on the other side, and I'll be that ult engage bot that they need me to be later in the game. Love that you called out that TP play, Alorum, by him to set up in the bot river to ultimately take the Baron off of a big team fight win.
Yeah, and here's the thing, because like Alorum mentioned this, and if you look at the goal difference over time, like it's literally you can see when the fights started happening. And for me, like a front to back team fight is ideally what Cloud9 Academy wants. They have Azir, they have Set jungle, Ashe. Like if they can direct a fight where they can see the enemy, they can see where Akali is, they can mark her, they can see Wukong, all of these things, perfect. They should win. Volibear is going to have a bad time. But the problem is, 2 of those fights we just mentioned, flank TP wards towards the top side of the map. Double TP too.
Yeah, that just means TSM was proactive about it.
Yes.
Like they actively were looking for the fights, which is what they needed to win, because technically C9 does scale better. I think they had the tools in the late game to win, let's say, a 4 or 5 item team fight. But TSM was actively looking for TPs, Nautilus hooks in specific, and Treat started so many of these fights, got the skirmishes off, that ultimately TSM, they just went out on all those skirmishes. Yeah,
and the fact of the matter, like the second fight that we saw that resulted in the Baron pickup from TSM was, I swear, Cloud9 are going to look back at the VOD and they're going to kick their head.
Oh, no.
Because they lost. The fact that they had control of their own red side jungle for so long, and they were still TSM control wards sitting there for the flank to actually start off, to kick off. It's crazy. It's the small. It's honestly some of the smallest things that will lose you games, and so it's really rough for them to be losing out to things like that.
Mark?
I mean, there were a lot of mechanical small things too, like the first blood that went down, or not first blood, but the first kill they got in the bot lane. Lost Q on Kalista hit literally almost as the Aftershock was wearing off the Thresh, which gave enough damage to spike and kill him as Ignite ticked off. And the whole time Toma was holding his heal, and he's like, we're going to get out without needing it. And just that small fraction of a thing, that play that you're talking about as well, the Azir actually knocked Dokla off his team, but Thresh hooked at the same time. And he actually pulled him through the Azir wall and pulled him back on top of his team. There were a lot of these small things that maybe could have broken more C9's way. So it wasn't, even though it felt like a stomp, there were a lot of close plays.
Yeah,
Right,
cool
and-
oh, go ahead, Alorn.
Okay,
No,
and
take
the
it.
one more to think about, what Mark Z was talking about, was there was the Thresh flash on bot that didn't make it over the wall. He was way too far off of that, and he didn't have flash for the next fight in top, which he died to the Kalista ult. So had he had flash for that, he could have maybe gotten a flay and a hook on Nautilus after flashing the knockup.
I'm glad we call it some misexecution, because we know that execution is the kind of thing game to game that these top-level players can shore up. And so more what I'm curious about, since both these teams did largely play the way we expected them to, C9 putting a focus into their solo lanes, targeting top specifically, with TSM playing around the bot side, is there concern for C9 that they didn't come away with the victory playing their game? Are we in for basically repeats here on out, because C9's back on blue side?
Yeah, look, I think huge potential for a run back. Cloud9,
No.
I think is a huge potential. Cloud9 Academy will look at their comp and say, look, we actually outscaled. We were slowing down a lot of what TSM Academy were throwing at us. Like, the gold lead was actually in our favor, and we're the scaling composition. Like, thinking about it from a draft perspective, they shouldn't be concerned unless they just do not want to see Lost on Kalista.
I would like to see C9 pick a more winning draft for their solo lanes, because it felt like both solo lanes, while they were ahead, couldn't actually push the lead even into a turret. So I want to see them draft more toward pushing those solo, and we saw their stats. They usually win earlier than every other team, and that is because of being able to push advantages from solo lanes.
Mark,
That's my thing too. With red side, I thought the counter pick usage was great. This is something that is better than what we even see a lot of times in the LCS level. The willingness to take Wukong into Jace and not take a soft losing matchup to a lane bully and actually try and counter it is something I love to see. It's what the LPL does, and I want to see people actually use red side to really aggressively attack these fragile matchups like a Jace can be. And that's why I'm a little bit scared with just a salty run back with no adaptations, because I thought the red side usage was great by TSM. The fact that they were winning top, winning bot, and still had good matchups around the rest of the map. I do want to see C9 make some changes.
One thing I want to point out was the set pick. If set is a true flex, then I like what they're doing on blue side. If it's simply just going into the jungle, then it's not working for me.
All righty. Well, there's some thoughts ahead of game 2, but TSM currently leads the series 1-0. On the other side of our break, C9 will have that chance to tie it up as we step into game 2. We'll see you there.
Verizon knows how to build unlimited right. You start with America's most awarded network, the one with unbeatable reliability 13 times in a row.
This network is one less thing I have to worry about.
Then you give people more plans to mix and match, so you only pay for what you need.
Verizon Unlimited plan is so reasonable, they could stay on for the rest of their lives.
You include the best in entertainment, and you offer it all starting at $35, because everyone deserves the best. This is Unlimited built right, only on Verizon.